What's up, everyone? Dylan here. I wanted to hop on and do a trade recap video regarding the trades that I took on Friday. Friday was a crazy day for me. We'll get into my emotions and why I took some of the trades. It was a weak day to start off, and then the news catalyst regarding Russia and Ukraine kind of triggered a further move to the downside that day. So I was able to capitalize on it. Obviously, I had no idea that news was going to drop when it did, but the timing was impeccable, okay? So like I said, we'll get into that in this video. So the reason I was comfortable playing puts is because I noticed that since the new year, right, since 2022 began, every single pop has been met with selling on ES and NQ. Okay, so you can see we came down here, pop, met with selling, came back up, sell, right? Bounce, met with selling, and so on and so forth. You could see that on both charts. That being said, we could see that bears have control whenever the market tries to bounce, okay? That being said, I noticed on Friday that the ES, NQ, and VIX were all correlating, okay? I've said this numerous times over the past month. When you have all three of those names correlate with one another, they present really high quality setups, okay? So like I said, you need all three to correlate with one another for the highest probability setups. If you have one out of the three or two out of the three scenarios happen, it's not going to be as good as a setup. So in the case on Friday, we had ES and NQ breach low of day at the same exact time VIX broke high of day, okay? On top of that, out of nowhere, the news catalyst regarding the Ukraine and Russian tensions also came out. So like I said, no one could have, speculated that news was going to come out when it did. But the timing was absolutely perfect. And when I heard the news over the my news source, I was like, holy shit, this is a very rare event. Like I said, when all three ES, NQ, and VIX correlate, and the news dropped at that exact time, Carmine always says that price precedes news. This is the perfect example. Okay, so I gave you this play almost 2 hours before it had happened. Okay, I get a lot of DMs from members saying, yo, why didn't you alert when you got in? Okay, I gave you the exact thing that I was looking for. Okay, I told you that if these three things happen, the bears have control. Okay, that means that you can play puts when the bears have control. Okay, so I actually counted for this video. I counted 27 members who DM'd me that took this exact trade that did very well. How are they able to capitalize on this trade, but you can't? Okay? The answer is you can. You don't have to rely on anyone to provide you with alerts, okay? Trust me, I used to be in 4 different alert chats during my first 2 years or so. So I was in the same boat, trust me, and I could tell you this, if that person was not giving me alerts, I was very nervous to just kind of trade on my own. So that is not the wise thing to do, right? the key to being successful as a trader is to become self-sufficient. So if you rely on Carmine, myself, or someone else to give you alerts, it's going to be very, very, very tough to succeed in the market over time. Don't get me wrong, you could make money on alerts here and there, but it's not sustainable. Trust me on that. So, like I said, I gave you this scenario about almost 2 hours before it had happened. Okay? So, for me, what I would have done if I were you, I would have marked these levels as soon as I told you them. So, right, your charts should have had something like this, okay? And this is what was on my charts at the time. I made these naked charts. I don't have any other, lines or zones on these charts so that you could clearly see the levels in play. So, this was low of day on ES. This was low of day on NQ, and then this was high of day on the VIX. So before these even played out and triggered, you could have had these levels set and ready to go, okay? All you had to do was then watch, and then when all three cross the lines, you execute, okay? That's where preparation comes into play. I always tell you guys, preparation is key as a trader. Trust me on that. That was the biggest pivotal point in my trading journey, because prior to me making money consistently, I was not preparing my trades. I would kind of just take random trades in random areas, and I wasn't really preparing them. I was just kind of I was winging the trades based on what I saw in the current market. So I was very focused on intraday fluctuations, 5-minute wedges, 5-minute head and shoulders, RBRs. You have no edge in that. I can literally go out on the street of Brooklyn right now, find a homeless man, teach him how to look for RBRs and fucking wedges, and in 10 minutes he'll know how to fucking, how to trade those. You have no edge whatsoever. That being said, once I changed that mindset, I was like, wait a second, okay, in order to really have an edge in the market, I need to prepare for the setups that are high probability. Okay, how do you know a setup is high probability? You have confirmations that back up your thesis. Okay, so for me, I have to have at least 3 confirmations that back up my thesis. At least 3. Usually I have 4 or 5, but 3 is the bare minimal. The more confirmations you have, the better. Okay. I could post another list of confirmations. There is already one in the Discord. If you want me to post another one, I can. But I always get asked, like, yo, what do you look for, for confirmations? I've talked about this all the time. If you look at my, basically every single recap video I've ever posted talks about the confirmations that I used for that particular trade. So the content is out there. You have all of the resources. So everyone has the same resources and everyone has the ability to succeed in trading, but you have to really try hard and work towards that. So trust me, if I could do it, you can too. I'm no rocket scientist. So, like I said, all I was waiting for were these lines to get crossed. As soon as that happened, I was ready to play puts or the short side, right? You could have played futures, you could have played VIX long, you could have played ES and or NQ short, you could have played SPY puts, QQQ puts, UVXY calls. There were so many different ways to capitalize on this particular move, okay? And as I said, on top of that is the fact that the news catalyst dropped I'm telling you, the moment these names crossed above and below these lines, the news catalyst dropped, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, I was prepared for that news. I'll talk about it in a few minutes. So I was waiting for that news to drop. Obviously, I didn't know when it was going to drop, but the professional traders in my office were explaining what they were going to do if and when that news dropped. Okay, so my homework about a week and a half prior to that day was to go home and research all of the commodities that Russia and Ukraine export to the United States. Okay, the pro traders at my office were going to long each one of those commodities that the Russia exports into the U.S. If and when that news dropped. So I was ready. I was prepared to buy, commodities such as natural gas, wheat, crude oil, and a few different names. So once this news dropped, not only was I in 1,500 contracts of SPY puts, but I was also trying my best to buy those commodities that I just said. So I realized that I have a massive flaw of, I fucking panicked. I was chasing the price of wheat. I was chasing crude oil, and I was trying to manage the 1,500 SPY put contracts. I was very, very, very stressed. And like I said, I was so stressed and all over the place because it was so hectic that there was a moment where I kind of just froze. So I was up $450,000 at one point. From my understanding, I literally saw the amount that I was up. I was up like 454,000. I ended up closing the day up 370,000, which is still good. Don't get me wrong, but because I panicked and I was just so overwhelmed with trying to buy, 5 different things and manage each one of them as we were dumping in the market. I couldn't. It was very, very, very tough for me to manage everything. So I ended up losing. Like I said, I ended up losing about 80,000 from the highs, which, like I said, I still ended up 370K, which is phenomenal. But I know I could have done a better job with trying to manage everything. It was just so overwhelming. I chased wheat. I chased fucking Kansas City wheat. I chased palladium. It was just all over the place. So I wanted to talk about how I found. Not how I found, but I wanted to talk about low of day, high of day, right? So a lot of people think that low of day, high of day on futures need to start when the market opens, okay? There's no set in stone rule, but what I do is I just start at 12 a.m. Eastern time. So my data starts at 12 a.m. Eastern time. So from 12 a.m. on, that's the data that I use when I come up with low of day and high of day. Because a lot of people were confused. They're like, low of day in the market was right here, right? But low of day for me was here because this was formed at 12:55 a.m. Eastern time. So this had formed on Friday morning per se, right? Same deal here. This was formed also at 12:55 Eastern time, and then VIX high of day was formed at 12:35 Eastern time. So since those levels formed in that particular day, I considered those the high of days and the low of days. Like I said, I just wanted to hop on and talk about the fact that, all you had to do is plot these levels, right? You were able to prepare close to 2 hours before these things happened. Okay. I also wanted to talk about how I found out that I had a flaw, right? I really struggled managing all of those positions, and because of that, I lost about $80,000 towards the end of the day. And, just focusing on the fact that I only trade around critical areas. I've been telling you guys that in the chat over the last month or so, right? I don't give a shit if Netflix has a 5-minute RBR or if Amazon has a 5-minute wedge pattern. If it's not near one of my critical levels or zones, I promise you I disregard it in full, okay? So, not this weekend, but the following weekend, I want to have a live stream where I go over what to look for when charting zones, right? What I personally look for when charting zones, right? I'm going to show you how to find the best quality zones. And I also want to talk about when to take trades, right? For myself, right? So I'll show you when I take trades and when I disregard stuff. So just quickly, I'll show you a little example. All right, we'll go to my main thing. So unless ES or NQ are at a zone or a pink level, I don't touch it, okay? So sometimes I add other levels such as low of day, high of day, right? If I'm taking a trade on low of day or high of day break, I want to make sure that ES, NQ, and VIX all correlate. So if ES just breaks low of day, but NQ is nowhere near low of day, I'm not taking puts. It's as simple as that. On the flip side, if ES breaks high of day, but NQ is nowhere near high of day and VIX is nowhere near low of day, I don't take the trade. So all three have to correlate in order for me to play. That's just for myself. Like I said, if you have an edge that works, then do it. But for me, that's my edge, okay? Those types of trades work the majority of the time, okay? I see a ton of members that will play, say puts when ES is breaching low of day. Meanwhile, NQ, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, fucking Amazon, Google are nowhere near low of day. So it's just not a high probability setup, right? I want to make sure that I'm piecing all the different market contexts together, okay? Tesla today. Tesla was very strong today, but it was nowhere near my levels. So I didn't give a fuck. Excuse my language. I apologize for the language, but I didn't give a shit about what it was doing. I don't care if news came out. I don't care if Elon Musk fucking came out with a new invention. I don't care. As long as it's not at a zone or one of my levels, I don't touch it. Okay? It's as simple as that. So this strategy allows me to take the highest quality trades and prepare for each one. I see, like I said, I see a lot of you guys taking 5-minute, 15-minute fucking RBRs, wedges, DBDs. You see a nice pop in volume. It doesn't matter. Okay, you have no edge. Like I said, I could find a homeless man in Brooklyn and teach him all of these things. What edge do you have over him? You don't, okay? So, to sustain a profitable strategy and system, I recommend finding critical areas on the chart and only trading around those areas. Like I said, Tesla was very strong today, but I didn't give a crap because it wasn't at the areas where I personally have an edge. Okay? I know exactly how it reacts to these critical areas. I have come up with hypothetical scenarios in my head so that when it does get to one of those, I know exactly how to trade off of it. Okay? In the middle of these two critical levels, I have no edge. I don't know what the hell it's gonna do. It's got no critical levels. It's got no zones. It's got nothing. So I totally disregard it. Okay. So hopefully that helps. My main goal is to prevent you folks from doing the same mistakes that I once did in the start of my journey. Okay. If you only take high quality trades that you prepare for, I guarantee you see a difference in your results. I promise you. Okay? So that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. And hopefully this video helped. Peace.